some of the biggest names out there, not just in acting either. You've got Steve Carell, Ryan Reynolds, Mike Tyson, Bill Nye. They all have shows either that they are starring in or that are about them, or in a couple of cases, both. Some interesting stuff. Let's talk TV. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to TV News and Reviews for the week. We've got a lot of interesting shows to talk about. Like I mentioned at the top, some big names here. We have The Patient, starring Steve Carell and Domhnall Gleeson. Welcome to Wrexham, which is a docu-series with Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia purchasing a soccer club, and they're sort of documenting that. You've got Mike, which is a miniseries about Mike Tyson that the boxer himself has nothing to do with and has sort of slammed critically. So, all right. Then we've got a show called Sprung on Freevee talking about, some comedy stuff from the mind of Greg Garcia, who brought us My Name is Earl and Raising Hope. The Undeclared War, featuring Simon Pegg, and then The End Is Nye, which is Bill Nye as himself as sort of an educational but entertainment show as well, sort of towing that line there. It's produced by Seth MacFarlane, so that tells you sort of what kind of mindset that show is in. But we'll get to all of that. But first, of course, it is the news. And next week, we're going to have the rundown of the whole Primetime Emmy Award broadcast. But this past weekend, they did the what's called Creative Arts Emmys. So we're not going to really go over, too many of the awards, really, because there were dozens and dozens and dozens of them, but things like, best makeup and that kind of thing. But it featured some awards that I talked about with my buddy Tim when we did our Emmy, who will win, who should win, our Emmy predictions. And one of them that was a nice surprise, Best TV Movie, went to Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers. Now, this is not going to be on my TV list for the year because it is a full-length film. So I'm going to have that on my best movies of the year, and it will be on there because I gave it an A. I love that thing. But with streaming now, the producers, I guess, can decide whether it goes in contention for best TV movie or if they want to put it up in the Oscars. And it didn't really make sense to do the Oscars because with this movie, it was a hybrid of animation and live action. I don't think there's enough animation to actually get nominated in Best Animated Film. I don't think it would qualify, and it certainly isn't going to qualify for, Best Picture or something over there. So I think this was a wise move from the producers and from Disney Plus, and it certainly paid off. That won the Best Movie. And in terms of guest stars, my buddy Tim had this one, Laurie Metcalf for Hacks and Nathan Lane for Only Murders in the Building for comedy guest star. I thought it would be Jane Lynch for the female, but Laurie Metcalf, I always love her. And some interesting tidbits about the two of them. This is the first win for Metcalf and Lane in these categories. But Lane had been nominated 7 times. Or I don't know if it's 7 times total, including this one or not. But in any case, he's been nominated a lot for this particular category. And this is the first Emmy he's ever gotten. Now, Laurie Metcalf has had 8 other nominations total. Some of them were in the guest category. I thought she had won years ago for Desperate Housewives, but she was just nominated for a guest there. But she won 3 consecutive Emmys back in the day on Roseanne as supporting actress. And she was nominated again for the reboot in 2018, I guess it is now. And she lost that one. But she's been nominated many times. And she now has an Emmy. Well, she's already had Emmys, I guess. But she just won a Tony a couple of years ago, too. So she's, and she's been Oscar nominated. So you never know. Never count Laurie Metcalf out, maybe for the EGOT. In terms of drama guest stars, it was Lee Yu-mi for Squid Game and Coleman Domingo for Euphoria. A couple other interesting things to talk about from the Creative Arts Emmys. Chadwick Boseman won a posthumous award for his voice work in What If. RuPaul won his 7th consecutive award for reality competition host. He's won every year since 2016, which is outstanding and insane. And he continues the title now of the most decorated black artist in Emmys history. I think between winning for host and winning for the actual show being nominated for Best Reality Competition, which, by the way, it's in contention for, and the odds-on favorite again this year, which we'll find out in a few days. I think he totals 11 or 12 Emmys now total, but 7th consecutive just for hosting. Former President Barack Obama won his first Emmy for the Netflix docuseries Our Great National Parks, which he narrated. And let's see, Peter Jackson won 2 awards for directing and for Outstanding Documentary for Get Back. And Get Back and Adele, one night only, won 5 awards each. That was the big Adele concert. I think it was on NBC maybe. Maybe it was streaming. I get so lost anymore. But speaking of the EGOT, that means Adele has now a Tony Award because she, I guess, scored something. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Tony's the one she's missing. That's it. She did the Bond theme for her Oscar. So she won the Oscar. She's got a shelf full of Emmys. I don't even know what those are all for, but I know she's won like 15 Emmys, Grammys or something, I mean to say. So she's got the Grammys. She's got an Oscar. Now she has some Emmys on her trophy case as well. So she's very close to that EGOT. She just needs to produce a Tony show or something or do a song for it. And then the Super Bowl halftime show won for Live Variety Emmy, the first time ever. They've obviously put on a lot of good shows over the year, but the hip-hop, Eminem, Dr. Dre, Snoop, 50 Cent, all that, Mary J. Blige, that obviously won the people at the Emmys over. I thought it was very, very well produced, as it usually is on the Super Bowl. So just a little tidbits of note, I think, for the Creative Arts Emmys. But next week, all of our TV news will be of who won the big Emmy Awards that Tim and I discussed in the video we did. Right now, I guess Tim is ahead because he called Laurie Metcalf in Hacks, if I'm remembering that correctly, and I did not. So, all right, in other news, renewal for Harley Quinn for Season 4 on HBO Max. Thank God they're keeping something around there on HBO Max. They keep dropping all of these animated programs. This is one that's going to stick around for Season 4. A couple of shows, actually just one, I guess, ending. Rutherford Falls is done at Peacock after 2 seasons. This is sad for me. I didn't watch the second season, I'll admit, but I really liked what I saw of the first season. The lack of viewership actually almost killed it for Season 1, but Universal, well, they own Peacock anyway, but they're also the studio behind the show. They paid all the costs for Season 2. They said, don't worry about it, we got this. They believed in the show. And it was, look, not only was it a well-written show and funny, and Ed Helms was great, but it had a truly authentic Native American cast, and they were all in the writer's room and behind the scenes as well. So, very, very diverse group of people that we don't usually see on television. So it was nice to see that. And it was one of those sort of feel-good shows. It was like a Ted Lasso in that respect, too. All right, in casting news, 3 more people out at Saturday Night Live. We already know, from the last episode of the year that Pete Davidson was leaving, A.D. Bryant, is Kyle Mooney out too? I think he is. And then, of course, Kate McKinnon. She was probably the biggest. But Alex Moffat, Melissa Villaseñor, and Aristotle Atari are out. Aristotle was only on for 1 season. I thought he had a couple of real strong characters that we could have brought back. Laughintosh 3000 during Weekend Update. And then he had this, like, crooner guy. Although that was sort of a one-note premise that they did, like, 4 different times. But I still found it funny each time. But, the cast had 21 people in it this season. So it's hard for a newcomer to shine through. James Austin Johnson was able to do it because he's playing both Trump and Biden. So that makes sense. And then Sarah Sherman, she did some update bits that were very funny. So the 2 of them are sticking around, but not Aristotle Atari here. And Melissa Villaseñor, I am very sad about because I really have loved her over the seasons. And there again, I think these casts have been so big that she did not necessarily get the time to shine that I think she should have. She had some great impressions. I would say that's what she was most known for. She did, Gwen Stefani and Dolly Parton and Owen Wilson. She does a great Owen Wilson. And, a lot of people that maybe don't normally get sort of mimicked. Kristen Wiig, she did a great Wiig. So unfortunately, she is leaving. I think maybe it was she felt she was being underused. So, Alex Moffat is fine. He's been on for years and always, is a good utility player. But I would say with the cast shrinking down by 7, they're not going to add 7 new people. They might add 3 or 4, maybe. But if they can keep the cast to about 18 or under, I think that's reasonable. You know, I think that's a little more doable. All right, another casting news. Ben Kingsley's going to reprise his Trevor Stanley role, Slattery role, rather, in MCU's Disney show Wonder Man, another Disney Plus Marvel show called Wonder Man. This is going to focus on one of Marvel's oldest characters, who is Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man. He was introduced in 1964 in the comics, initially as a villain, but then was reconceived as a hero in the 70s. So I'm not sure what way they're going to go. Are they going to do the original, make him more of a villain, and then turn him, or what? But Wonder Man was a founding member of the West Coast Avengers in the 80s. And then Williams, the alter ego, had a day job as an actor and stuntman. So that's, I assume, how they're going to bring in the Trevor Slattery character. He's an actor. I love that they have taken this character that I so hated in Iron Man 3 and turned him around. He was, spoiler alert for Shang-Chi, a movie that's been out for, over a year now. But he had sort of a return in that. And I just loved that arc for him. So I'm glad to see him again. All right, moving along here. Speaking of the Emmys, game shows are moving to the Primetime Emmys. They were a part of the Creative Arts Emmys previously, but I guess maybe because there's so many Primetime ones now, they have sort of reconfigured that. Not for this year. It's going to start next year. In fact, I should have looked up, I guess, who won Best Game Show for this year. I don't know. Jeopardy, maybe, if I had to take a guess. But that's going to be moving to the Primetime Emmys. And then there's already like a sort of reality contest category, which is like what RuPaul's Drag Race is. So that's going to actually be renamed to Outstanding Reality Competition Program. I don't know what it's called now. Something similar, but it won't be quite the same. All right, speaking of some game shows and reality contests, in reboots and spinoffs, Survivor is coming back to the UK after a few years off for a 16-episode season. It's been off since before COVID, but the article I read didn't say an exact year of when it was last on. But here's something I didn't know. The format actually started in Sweden. For some reason, I thought this was an American original. I thought Mark Burnett created it here in America, but I guess maybe he just took the concept in Sweden. So this is actually the 25th anniversary year of the show. 1997 was when it first aired in Sweden. I didn't know that. I thought 2000 on CBS was like the top thing. All right, and then just a couple of announced shows for you. There's a new Osbournes reality show coming to the BBC called Home to Roost. It's going to update the family's life 20 years after moving to Hollywood to star in the MTV show The Osbournes, which really jump-started the celebrity reality craze. You know, shortly after that was like the Gene Simmons Family Jewels, and then you had, I guess, well, Bret Michaels was more of like a dating show, I guess, but a lot of shows in that vein where they looked at celebrities. The Surreal Life came from sort of looking at the Osbournes and some of those shows. So, I'm sort of over the whole Osbournes thing. It's been done to death. But whatever, that could be interesting maybe on the BBC. And then there is a new Norman Lear show coming to Freevee. Norman Lear just this week celebrated his 100th birthday, and to celebrate, Freevee gave him a series order on this new show called Clean Slate. This guy keeps plugging along. God bless him. There is that 100th anniversary, or 100th birthday, I should say, special that's coming to ABC sometime this fall. I forget. We had talked about it here in the news, though. But this was previously developed at Peacock in 2020, but they never went forward with it there. But Freevee it's called Clean Slate. It centers on an outspoken, old-school car wash owner who is played by the very funny George Wallace, who's reunited with his estranged child after 17 years, only to find that said child is now a proud trans woman, and she's going to be played by Laverne Cox. So this is just perfect casting. I really love both of these people, so should be fun. And we have a show on Freevee to talk about this week. Freevee, which was formerly IMDb TV, and it's right there in the name. It's a free streaming service. If you don't want to pay for your streamers, there is some free content on here. You do have to watch the ads with it, but they have a lot of movies and a lot of TV shows and some originals now on the Freevee. And I guess that's where the Judge Judy show is, the new Judy Justice, because it was on IMDb TV, so I guess it's now on Freevee. All right, so anyway, that's going to be called Sprung, coming up in a little bit. But first, we will get to the first of our reviews with The Patient. This is on FX on Hulu. Our first three shows actually come from either FX, Hulu, or the sort of go-between, which is FX on Hulu. Shows sort of produced by FX, but streaming originally on Hulu. So, and that's what The Patient is. It stars, like I mentioned up at the top, the great Steve Carell as a therapist named Alan Strauss. He is mourning the recent death of his wife. And then you have Domhnall Gleeson, who is coming in as a new patient of his. He has got a very insane past, and he ends up taking Steve Carell, well, the character anyway, the therapist, as a hostage in his basement, and basically forces him to try and figure out, what is wrong with him and how he can stop doing what he's been doing, which I won't get into here. But this is a really kind of wild show. There is an ongoing theme, though, in this week's episodes, or this week's shows, I should say, that the episodes, even for a very dramatic show like this, Steve Carell's not doing bits here. I mean, this is, we've seen him do drama in some movies, certainly. I think this could be his best dramatic role. But this and the show we're going to talk about next, Welcome to Wrexham with Ryan Reynolds, are shows that I think in other streamers would be hour-long shows that we would have to sort of be maybe bored with, or like, okay, where is this kind of going? Or no, this is like a 22, 23-minute show, as is Welcome to Wrexham. They're both very short, bite-sized shows. And I think both of them are better for it. I'll explain more when we get to the Welcome to Wrexham. But for The Patient, they put 2 episodes up the first week. So I watched actually the first 3 because it went up about 2 weeks ago. So the first 3 episodes are up now. And I ran through them all right in a row. It only took an hour and like 10 minutes. And I think it is for the better. First of all, the most compelling parts of the show by far are in that basement. We do a lot of flashbacks. We see the Carell's character and his life before the kidnapping, but also when his wife was still alive. We see some of that as well, sort of getting into those details. I don't find that stuff as compelling, I guess, as the basement lockdown thing, where, he's being held captive and prisoner and all of this. That, to me, is the real meat and potatoes of the show. But I do think that at a full hour, they would really, really be stretching it. And you may hear a review later on in this episode about a different show that is doing hour-long episodes, and they are a slog to get through because there isn't an hour's worth of material there. Here's, the streamers have such a problem, I think, and I've talked about it over and over, but not only can they cut episodes sometimes, not everything has to be 8 episodes. You could have a 6-episode thing if that's more, what the story fits. But because there's no commercials on a lot of the streamers, like Netflix specifically, we're getting these like 59-minute shows, hour and 10-minute shows. And it's like, okay, cool, if it can service it. But most of the time, it does not. Most of the time, you're left sort of wondering, oh, this probably should have been a 42-minute episode, and it would have been if it was on a network where it had to run commercials. But here, I think it was a brilliant choice to make this a half-hour show. Like I said, in another streamer's hands, I think they would have said, let's stretch this out to an hour. Most drama shows are an hour. That's sort of like the standard, right? But they decided to go this half-hour route with it to serve it better. Domhnall Gleeson is great as well. He's always good. He's done mostly drama, I would say. He's done a little comedy here and there, and I guess he first got his start maybe in the Harry Potter movies. But Steve Carell, I would say, in terms of his dramatic work, is maybe giving us his best here. I mean, he's great in the first season of The Morning Show. It's a little campier, I think. And then the movie Foxcatcher, like, he's great in that. But I think he is giving us his best drama here. And I am sort of waiting with bated breath at the end of each episode, you know, and I'm glad I binged all 3 of them at once, but now I have to wait a week for the next one. And they all end on these great cliffhangers. The writing is very good. Again, I'm not sure that I care much about the flashback stuff. I like seeing the flashback with Gleason's character when he, like, first came into the office and is, like, you know, talking to him and taking the first steps to the therapy, like, before we really know a lot about him. And then flashing back to that once we do know more about him and are, like, kind of freaked out by him. There is another issue I have, and I'm not sure how they're going to work this as the season continues. And I think this is listed as a full series, right? It's not a mini-series. Oh, I'm sorry, it is. I stand corrected. It's a 10-episode limited series. But if they're all 22-minute episodes, you can pound this once they're all, you know, up on Hulu in probably, you know, 2.5, 3 hours. But point being, that, well, maybe more than 3 hours, but, I am not positive how, if they're going to portray him as a sympathetic character, because he's doing some reprehensible things, and so far they're sort of really towing that line. So far I'm not falling for it. I am well in the corner of he is bad. But they're kind of towing that line, and some shows do this, and they do it expertly, and some shows sort of toe that line and fail, I think, in that regard. So we'll see how it turns out, but so far I'm really enjoying this show. Very, very sharp writing, great acting. I leave The Patient with a B+ for now. All right, Welcome to Wrexham is next, and this is part of the Welsh Association Football Club called Wrexham AFC, which Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia bought a couple of years ago. And this is sort of them showing us the insides of starting to purchase it and then getting involved with it and teaching us a little bit about the game, and more importantly, I think, sort of the tier system. They have like this pyramid thing in the this league where, based on how well you do for the year, you move up or down. So you could switch leagues and start playing other teams, you know, higher or lower than you. And this team is ranked the lowest that a national team can be ranked. They're like in that low grid. There's a couple of, you know, amateur ones under them. But in terms of the, you know, the big leagues, the nationals, the majors, whatever you want to call them in soccer, this team is towards the bottom, you know, in that bottom section. And so how are they going to turn it around? Well, they're going to show us. They're introducing us to characters. They are introducing us to ideas of, you know, what they're going to do and how they're going to turn this around, and, you know, all this kind of stuff. I don't know if there's anybody more likable than Ryan Reynolds. There's a few out there, I guess. But, you know, Ryan Reynolds, to me, he's just so charming, so likable, and so freaking funny. And then Rob McElhenney, of course, from Always Sunny. Love all of those guys, but he is really great too. And both of them do a lot of charity work. You know, Rob being from Philadelphia, I hear about his charity work frequently with some different organizations he's involved with. But here, it's sort of like a real-life Ted Lasso a little bit, because, of course, when Ted Lasso comes over, he knows nothing about the game. And that's kind of how Rob McElhenney feels. Like he's a little bit lost in what soccer, you know, even... Not what it is, but like, you know, I think he gets, you know, the basics, but I think he's a little out of his element here, and he knows it. So, you know, they talk to some experts and everything, and meanwhile, they're educating us on the whole process. So this is a fun show. You know, if you like these guys, I think you're really going to get a kick out of this. But again, here is one where I think maybe another, you know, production company or studio or streamer would have this be an hour-long thing, and I don't think it needs to be, because I'll tell you what, by like, I think I watched 3 episodes. By the 3rd episode, it's a lot about, okay, let's like meet the players and stuff. I'm not really that interested in that, to be honest. No offense to them, you know, but I know there's going to be a lot of players on the team, and this isn't like a reality show where they're going to kick some off, I don't think. So, you know, getting the nitty-gritty details of, you know, a dozen people, I'm not sure if I'm interested in that. And as well, I think they're playing a little too much soccer in it. And if you are a sports fan, this will scratch the itch for sure, whilst giving you some laughs. For me, I could have used a little less soccer. You know, like Ted Lasso, I think, has like the perfect amount of soccer, which is like not too much, but enough to, let you know what's going on with the players and stuff. So, look, if you're a bigger sports fan than me, I think you'll like this more than me, but I do enjoy it. I think it's well put together. It's funny as heck. So I will leave Welcome to Wrexham with a B. I would grade it higher if I was more of a sports fan, but a lot of, and I don't have to be a sports fan for things, but there's a lot of soccer being played on this show. All right, Mike is next. This is a biography show of Mike Tyson. He has said in so many words that he does not, like this idea. He does not stand for this. He does not approve it. He has nothing to do with it. He's pissed off that they did it. Trevante Rhodes is playing Mike, and basically it's based on a real-life one-man show that Tyson did, I think like 10 years ago in Vegas or something. He started doing this. I don't know how long it ran, but so we see the actor, Rhodes, going up as Mike Tyson and doing the bits and stuff, and, flashing back, and then we see sort of the things he's talking about while he's on the stage. And he has the mannerisms. They gave him the face tattoo, of course. He speaks like Mike. I don't think he looks near enough like Mike to really pull it off. But more than that, it seems like it's in poor taste, in my opinion, to do a docuseries on somebody who has completely disavowed it, said, F you people, this is not what I want. It seems like, some of like the TMZ specials they're doing lately on Fox to sort of fill some summer programming. What happened to Richard Simmons? Who really killed Michael Jackson? It seems like it's in sort of that vein of like tabloid fodder, I guess. Now, those are more docuseries in the respects that, they're like interviewing people, whatever. This is, it's a drama show. They're not, doing interviews with real life people or whatever. It's all on the scripted page for us. But we did have a non-scripted Mike Tyson show just earlier in the year, maybe? I think it was. I know Rosie Perez was one of the producers of it. It was on ABC. It ran, I think, 3 episodes. I didn't review it. But I feel like if we already got a documentary version with different interviews and stuff of what's going on with Mike, and look, Tyson has been very candid about things in his own life, about his abuse and his drugging and alcoholism, and he's been very candid in the last 10, 15 years about all of that stuff in his one-man show, in his book. So why do we need this, especially if he's not approving of it? Like, I just feel like he's been so open enough. Why don't we just get the real McCoy, which I think ABC kind of did, about 9 months ago. Look, are there things to say that maybe he is still keeping from us? Maybe, but like, he's told us some pretty bad stuff, I feel like, about things that he has done in his life. And so, if he's not giving it the stamp, I can't either. And the guy does an okay job with, like I said, the mannerisms and the voice. I don't think he looks very much like him, to be honest. He's definitely not, built like him. He's not jacked up enough. So, yeah, I'm going to leave Mike with a D. Next, we're going to talk about Sprung. This is on Freevee, and this was created by Greg Garcia. I mentioned earlier he did My Name is Earl and Raising Hope. He's done, actually, a lot of different programs. Yes, Dear, which was on for a long time. But Raising Hope, I think, is the most important one here because that show featured the married couple of Garrett Dillahunt and Martha Plimpton. At least their characters were married. Well, here, he reunites the crew. They don't play a married couple in this, but they are both main cast members. And unlike, like Kevin James, where every show he does is the same, and he brings Leah Remini on as the wife, we get it. No, these guys are playing very, well, I wouldn't say her role is that different, really, but anyway, so he plays Jack, who is this guy who just got released from prison after almost 3 decades because of COVID. They said, he was originally arrested on drug charges, and the county, I think they're in California, but they have said, okay, well, everybody that's, in jail for a non-violent crime gets to go home. But the problem is, what home? He's been in jail for 30 years, and so He ends up crashing with his former cellmate, Rooster, who's played by Philip Garcia. Don't know if there's any relation there to Greg Garcia, but perhaps. And then Martha Plimpton plays Rooster's mother. So they're playing, roles, I guess, a little bit of an age difference. But anyway, she's got some stealing habits and some bad things of her own that she wants them to now be a part of now that they're out. And so the comedy goes from there. But it's great because not only do they know nothing about the coronavirus, and we're still, this takes place like right at the start, kind of March, April of 2020. So they're sort of learning about it whilst, he doesn't know much about anything because, what did he say? They offered him like 15 minutes of computer time a day or something, but whatever. So he's sort of catching up on the real world over the last 30 years. I really like this team of all three of them, really, including Greg Garcia, the creator, because he writes a lot of it too. Garcia, Plimpton, and Dillahunt. Like, I'm in for the trio. I think Raising Hope is a very underrated show. I went through it when it was finally finished over on Fox, and I watched the whole thing, and it was very funny. And I loved My Name is Earl. I think Martha Plimpton maybe had a cameo or something in there, but Raising Hope is, where the trio sort of formed, I think. And it's very funny. And I asked a question. I don't know if it was on here or on one of my movie reviews, but it was not that much in the past, maybe in the last 6 or 9 months. Oh, you know what? It was that movie, The Bubble, which I gave an F to, Judd Apatow stuff, where they were trying to make a movie right at the start of the pandemic, and they were joking about, the different, whatever, the masking and all the swabbing of the noses, whatever. First of all, it wasn't clever, but I sort of posed the question, like, when is it funny to joke about the pandemic? And my answer for The Bubble was not yet. But 6 months later, here we are, and this is a clever show. It's got great leads that play so well off each other because they've got that history. And I think this works actually very well as a sitcom. And like sort of My Name is Earl and some of the other shows he's done, it is sort of a feel-good show too, because you've got these people who maybe have done some bad things in their lives and they want to sort of make amends. Like, Dillahunt's character even has kind of a list, like My Name is Earl, where he wants to sort of, right some of the people he's wrong. Not necessarily in the same way as My Name is Earl, but certainly gave me shades of that. So maybe not wholly original, but I thought this was a really funny show. And I think they were getting us. They're starting right at that good time of the pandemic when nobody knew what was happening. So they're talking about, Donald Trump and masking and all of that stuff. And now that we're 2.5 years after that, I think is the time that we can laugh about it and joke about it, as long as it's written well, which The Bubble is not. This is. I leave this. What the heck is it called? Sprung. I leave Sprung with a B. Do so many shows, I forget the name sometimes. All right, so next is The Undeclared War. This is on Peacock. It originally aired on Channel 4 in England, but it's now available on Peacock for your viewing pleasure. And I think all the episodes are up. There's all 6 of them. And this is the hour-long show I was mentioning earlier that is a slog to get through. It does not need to be an hour. Simon Pegg plays one of the leads here, but this is basically, it's listed as a thriller. And it's about this hacking, Russian hacking, and they are, hacking, well, I was going to say the U.S., but it's in England. They're sort of figuring out, most of the show takes place really in sort of the office buildings of the government and stuff, where they're trying to figure out, how to stop the hack and if they're going to get hacked again and this and that and the other thing. And, let's do the virus protection and all of this. And it's like, it's literally like watching your IT guy work on your virus-laden computer. Like, it was really boring. And they tried a little bit with like some of the characters to like, okay, let's develop this relationship, or let's, have these guys talk and discuss their out-of-work lives and all this. But like, it was all just so like by the numbers. Visually, it reminds me a lot of like a 24 or something. Not because they're doing like the different boxes like 24 did, but in terms of like government stuff, its urgency. A lot of it is taking place sort of in that government area. Of course, in 24, Jack Bauer's going out and about and doing things, but it would be like a show about the security people in 24. You know, it would be like a show all about them. And to me, it was a snoozer. And it's funny, some of these shows that are completely up, like, you know, The Patient, I probably would have watched all of if it was up. It's not. Welcome to Wrexham, I probably would have watched all of if it was up. It's not. But this, you know, has 6 episodes. And I was like, you know, okay, maybe I can, you know, there's some extra time this week. I have some shorter shows. Let's, you know, check out all 6 hours of this. And after the first episode, I was like, yeah, that's definitely not happening. Like, this was a snoozer. Simon Pegg's fine. You know, he's always good. He's really the only person I think I recognized. Oh, I'm sorry. Mark Rylance is in it. Right. Good old Mark Rylance. We love him too. And he's good too. Like, I can't say that, well, they're not bad anyway. Some of the ancillary characters I could say that about. But yeah, Pegg and Rylance, okay, they're fine. Of course, they always are. But it's the script here. It's so boring, and it's directed in a very, you know, static, kind of boring manner. This is a show that could have used, if not 25 minutes like some of the others, okay, fine, give it 40 minutes like a network show so you'd have room for commercials and whatever. But this is just not hitting the mark for me at all. I leave the Undeclared War with a D as well. A couple of real bad ones. All right, so The End Is Nye is our final show, and this is about our friend Bill Nye, the science guy. We love him so much. He's really been making the rounds lately on different, you know, variety shows and stuff. He was on The Masked Singer. He was a guest judge or whatever, guest helper on the Lego Master, or what was it called? Domino Masters. So this show is co-created by Nye and Seth MacFarlane, one other guy as well. But Seth MacFarlane has this love for science. He redid the show Cosmos, which was on in, I guess, the late 70s, early 80s with Carl Sagan originally. He did it a few years ago with Neil deGrasse Tyson on Fox. And I think they did maybe 2 seasons of that, and they were going to do a third, but then I think he maybe had some allegations against him. deGrasse Tyson did. They were like, I think they went away and nothing happened with them. But then COVID hit, so, you know, who knows? I don't think that show is coming back. So I think MacFarlane sort of shifted his efforts to this one, The End Is Nye, which is definitely more fun than Cosmos. Cosmos was good, but it was very, like, straight ahead. It was very, okay, you want science, here's science. A lot of times it did feel like being in a science class, which, you know, can be educational, and certainly I like it more now as an adult than I did when I was in school. But here, Bill Nye, you know, known for kind of being a ham sometimes, is really sort of acting the part, and he's teaching us as he is entertaining us as well. And Seth MacFarlane appears in every episode too, in, you know, some different role, you know, whether it's the airport concierge or a newscaster or whatever. He appears somewhere to sort of remind us, okay, it's Seth MacFarlane's show. But it makes sense why The Orville is so good. You know, it's one of the best sci-fi shows on television. I haven't watched the new season yet, but it started out a little shaky, and then, like, by the end of the first season, I was like, this is amazing. Season 2 was amazing. And so, you know, he's a sci-fi fan. He's a science fan. And you wouldn't think it with his stupid Family Guy jokes. Hate that show. But I've never necessarily disliked Seth MacFarlane. I think he's kind of a lousy writer, but as a performer, you know, I think he was a good host at the Oscars, and I think he's a good song and dance man and whatever. But here, you know, they're giving us the good mix of entertainment and education. I went through the Carl Sagan show, actually, of Cosmos, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago. And I guess right around the time the Neil deGrasse Tyson one came out. And, you know, it was kind of educational, but it was definitely like, I think it aired on PBS or something in the late 70s. So, and you could tell, you know, it was very dry, and I like Carl Sagan, but, you know, there wasn't a lot to keep you hooked. Here, Bill Nye is really, you know, giving us the energy that he always does. I didn't really grow up with Bill Nye. He came on, I think, when I was already in college. So, like, for me, I sort of missed the whole Bill Nye the Science Guy craze. But I always understood, you know, he's an entertaining guy. He's funny. And I think he shows us that here, whilst definitely entertaining us. The first episode alone was really cool. It was about, you know, climate change, and here's what certain people think, and here's what, you know, is the reality, and all of that kind of stuff. So this was a good one. Definitely among the best of the week. I leave The End Is Nye with a B+. All right, so a few good ones to check out and a couple of horrible ones to avoid. So in the next couple of weeks, now we have the broadcast premieres in a few weeks. I think my buddy Tim may join me for that. He's kind of going on vacation that week, so I don't know if he'll get to all the shows or not, but might be fun to have a guest on TV News and Reviews. So we may talk to our buddy Tim about the broadcast premieres, but before that, we're going to tackle the big Lord of the Rings show that just premiered. It's getting a lot of review bombs and these racist pricks, saying horrible things about it. But I'm going to watch it and see how it is as a show, regardless of anything else. But also, I think one of these weeks here before the broadcast premieres, I'm going to do an all Netflix special too, because there's been like 8 new shows on Netflix the last like month or so, and I just haven't gotten to them. So there's like the Woodstock documentary, there's a sitcom that's on, there's like a romance show. Anyway, there's every time I look up new shows for the week, there's always like 2 Netflix shows on there, and I'm like, all right, well, I'll get to those eventually. So I'm going to do an all Netflix special as well coming up, but thank you for joining me. We'll see you next week for TV News and Reviews.